Namaste, and wishing you all a joyous and blessed Navaratri. May this festival bring strength, wisdom, and prosperity into your life. Welcome to all to this Bharatiya Management Navaratri e-lecture series in collaboration with the ICFAI Foundation of Higher Education, Hyderabad, and Ramaya Institute of Management, Bangalore. The Navaratri festival marks a sacred time for intellectual evolution and celebrating Bharatiya management's theoretical, philosophical, and industrial collaborations. The lecture series focuses on management lessons and from Indian ethos, exploring key concepts, lessons from ancient classical texts, and Indian business history. It highlights the unique Bharatiya style of management. I would like to take this opportunity to introduce the Center for Education and Social Studies, CES, which is a recognized institute by the Indian Council of Social Sciences, ICSSR, social and transformation from and to education. CES was established in 2006. CES focuses on research, policy advocacy, and capacity building in education and index studies. CES addresses challenges in education by conducting evidence-based research to inform policy decisions. One of the initiatives of CES is Bharatiya Management, and through this initiative, we undertake various projects, internship programs, and in the light of it, we have organized Navaratri e-lecture series. We had organized Bharatiya Management Navaratri lecture series in the last year and received overwhelming positive response. In the light of it, we have organized this series even this year in collaboration with ICFAI Foundation for Higher Education, Hyderabad, and Ramaya Institute of Management, Bangalore. At the outset, I would like to take this opportunity to welcome Dr. G.P. Sudhakar, sir, mentor of Bharatiya Management. We welcome you, sir. We also welcome Dr. Shilpa Datar, the speaker of today's session. I extend a warm welcome to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Bhagia. It's lovely to be here.
Thank you, ma'am. I now request Dr. G.P. Sudhakar, sir, to give the introductory remarks to this Bharatiya Management e-lecture series 2024. Over to you, sir.
Thanks, Bhagia. Namaste to all participants and speakers who are here. It's a pleasure to welcome you all to this second edition of the Navaratri e-lecture series on Bharatiya Management. This is an area that CES has been working now for about 4 years. And we hope that we will be able to explore the rich tapestry of Bharatiya content that may be relevant for contemporary managers. It's an honor and a pleasure that we have some very illustrious speakers in this series, and we will be definitely learning a lot from them. At CES, our stated vision as far as Bharatiya Management is concerned is to mainstream Bharatiya Management in all business schools in India, and in that effort, every speaker who comes here or every participant of these lectures are very important to us because it is through you that our objective of having young students learn about Bharatiya contribution or potential contribution to management knowledge of contemporary use will be possible only when all of us work together, bridging the gap between our rich heritage and the modern management challenges. It's wonderful to see such overwhelming participation. I am delighted that more and more people are interested in this area. In fact, Today, most IIMs also are conducting workshops and seminars on Bharatiya management. It wasn't just say 4 or 5 years ago. There are many interesting concepts. I'm hesitant to get into the various angles or various materials that are available and potentially useful for contemporary managers. We'll hear some of them in this series. But from the work that I see, if you look at the journal articles and things like that, I believe that ancient Indian wisdom has a lot to contribute right from our connection with the environment, our purpose of business as defined by ancient Indian wisdom, right to managing businesses, managing groups of people. So in every way, in every component of management, we have some wisdom that will be relevant and useful. As participants, I encourage you to think critically about whatever you're hearing, request you to do more research and help us reach to more institutions and students the wonderful wisdom that I believe is very much relevant for today's managers, because I think what ancient Indian wisdom offers is something that is the dire need of management today. If you see, most of the failures or the problems or crises in management are related to ethics, connected to sustainability, connected to issues that are where Indian wisdom, I believe, has very wonderful solutions and answers. I welcome you wholeheartedly to this lecture series. I'm sure you will enjoy every lecture. And again, thank every one of the illustrious speakers for sparing their time and being with us. Welcome again and look forward to a wonderful Dasara learning. Namaste.
Thank you, sir, for your insightful introductory remarks. I take this opportunity to introduce the first speaker of today's session, Dr. Shilpa Datar, Director, Swayam Analyticals Private Limited, Bangalore. Ma'am is going to address on the topic Understanding Leadership Personality through the Lens of Triguna. Dr. Shilpa Datar is a renowned psychologist with a PhD in Indian psychology and Advaita philosophy, and she is expert in self-awareness and learning disabilities. She has developed globally used psychometric tests and has presented at national and international conferences. A member of the National Academy of Psychology of India and the Karnataka Association of Clinical Psychologists, Dr. Datar also reviews journals in psychology and Ayurveda. Ma'am has created proprietary software for personality profiling and earned the Veda Brahma Award for Excellence in Innovation in the year 2012. As a founder of Director of Swayam Analytics, Madam has promoted students' career success and corporate development, partnering with Karnataka Government's Skills Connect. Ma'am, we are very happy and overwhelmed to hear from you today. We welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bhagya. It's really it's an honor for me to be able to present my work today and talk in front of you all, because this is such a very big organization, very well-known, renowned organization. And it's an absolute pleasure and an honor for me to be here today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. A few instructions to all the participants. Attending all the sessions is mandatory for getting these certificates, and any questions you have should be posted on the message group there, and that will be taken. And now I request ma'am to take over the session. Over to you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. So first of all, again, thank you very much to SES, Dr. Bhagya, and Professor Sudhakar and everybody. I'm really very happy to be in front of you today. Just one thing, at 6 o'clock, for a 20-second, there's going to be there's some repair work going on over here and some movement from one modem to the other. So there might be a blackout for about 10 seconds. If you can just bear with me, I'll be back online. The topic I'm going to talk about today is understanding leadership personality through the lens of the Trigunas. So I'd like to give you a little background about my life, a little story that I'd like to tell you, which will put things into context. So in 97, 98, I have two children. One of them was identified as being dyslexic, and the school wanted us to move them to a special needs school, and I refused to do that. They went on to study in a regular school, and I started working with special needs children to understand what this was all about. So 97, 98, you can imagine that Google was not there or not so big, and there was hardly any information. It was at this time when I was working with these children that I realized that the tests that were being used to identify these children were all foreign tests and were not relevant to an Indian audience. And I was very dismayed about that because, as administrators, as adults, we couldn't understand some of the questions they were asking because they were poor interpretations from foreign tests. And administering it on special needs children, children with dyslexia, was a bigger disaster. So I went on to do my master's in psychology. And by then I realized that all the tests that were being used in India, whether in the academic setting or in the corporate setting, were all foreign tests, were not standardized for India, and they were not giving proper interpretations. And unfortunately, to this day, the same situation continues. 25 years later, the same situation continues. There are no, people don't use well standardized Indian tests that can understand the Indian population. So that was my major issue. And by the time I completed my master's in psychology, I was also very disillusioned with Western psychology. Because if you look at Jung and Freud, they've given beautiful theories. There's a lot of work that's been done for treating of people with mental health issues, and they've done fabulous work. But when it comes to understanding people, the theories of personality that are there, I find that they're all very fractured. There is Jung, there's Freud, there is Piaget, there's Gestalt, there are Skinner, there are plenty of people. But you can't take all your theories, all your propositions, put them all together and to give you a complete understanding of one person from birth to, death across the entire developmental cycle. And I felt that that was a huge lacunae. If you look at, hard sciences like physics, chemistry, mathematics, they have universal laws that are applicable to the entire world, to people across the world. The laws of physics don't change. But if you look at psychology, it's not the same. So I realized that, that was the area where I wanted to contribute. And also I wanted to see how I could develop tests to identify children at a younger age to help them overcome their difficulties, to lead, successful careers, to have successful careers and professions. So with this mandate, when I was looking around to see what could be done, and I wanted to develop something that would be universally applicable to people across the world, not just limited to, I live in Bangalore, so not just limited to Bangalore or Karnataka or South India or something like that. That's when I came across the 5-element theory, the Panchamahabhuta theory. So the Panchamahabhutas are Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Ap, and Prithvi, and I'm sure it's it's ingrained in our system, especially in India. It's ingrained in our system because all the entire Shat Darshanas, the 6 philosophies of India, they all talk about it. So does Ayurveda, Yoga. Everyone, each of these philosophies, each of these texts, the classical texts, talk about it. And I started working in this area, and I realized that Ayurveda has a very well developed theory of understanding people, of categorizing them, and so on and so forth. And that this entire work became my PhD, which I completed at University of Mysore through Regional Institute of Education, which is NCERT. And for my PhD work, I developed these tests to assess people. By then, my child had graduated as a lawyer, and I realized that this was something my belief that, the Western model of categorizing, labeling, and throwing them into special needs or whatever kind of things was, wrong was validated. So this is my story, and from there I moved on to, like I said, I developed these tests, and then we're using it in multiple places, which I'll tell you as we go forward. So this entire work that I have done stemmed from my need to discover or redo something which to my feelings, to my eyes, were broken, and not really fix it, but then really give an alternative which could be useful for people to understand themselves as well as the people around them, for better interpersonal relationship and so on. So what is Indian psychology? Indian psychology is nothing but the psychology that has come to us from the philosophies of India. So like I mentioned earlier, India has very well defined, developed philosophies. You have the Shat Darshanas, you have Vedas, Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, Sankhya, which is atheistic. It's still a fantastic philosophy. Sankhya, Yoga, the Puranas, Itihasas, the Bhagavad Gita. They all talk about man, manas, behavior, psyche, and how you can understand people by what they do, what they don't do, how they talk, how they behave, and so on. In fact, Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna talks to Arjuna from the 11th chapter onwards about Sattvic, Rajasic, and Tamasic oriented people, and how you can understand them, and how you can overcome certain of the negative gunas to be able to reach to evolve to a higher level of being. And these are the concepts that I imported from the domain of psychology, from the multiple domains into the domain of psychology, and then did my work in that. So this manas and behavior is something very central. Why it is central to all philosophies is because they all talk about how we need to overcome our feelings, how we need to control our mind, restrain our mind to be able to achieve something, to evolve. So if you look at the different texts, the classical texts, they all talk about how you can understand manas and behavior. And these are the things that are imported into the domain of psychology to develop the tests, to understand behavior. And the Bhagavad Gita, like I mentioned, Sri Krishna talks to Arjuna and says how you can understand people who are Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic. And the whole concept of all the different philosophies is to help us to bring our mind under control so that we can evolve to a higher level of being. So there is a lot of information about that, which is even now still quite untapped. So in India, there are principally 3 ways of understanding people. One is the Panchakosha method, which is from the Taittiriya Upanishadic perspective. The Taittiriya Upanishad talks about it for the first time. The 5 koshas: Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, and Anandamaya kosha. So since the koshas are very subtle, it's very difficult for us to understand at what level we are, or at what kosha we are operating from. And also because there are no clear-cut demarcations where this kosha ends and that one ends. So there's always an interplay between them, and we are always operating from koshas which are overlapping to each other. And then the second is the Ayurvedic Tridosha perspective of understanding people. So the Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, I'm sure all of you have heard of it. It's, ingrained in our senses, like I mentioned, in our consciousness. And then the third is the Trigunas, which is common to all darshanas of philosophy, including Ayurveda and Yoga. Both Tridoshas and Trigunas are composed of the Panchamahabhutas, Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Ap, and Prithvi, and the 5 primordial elements. The elements is very loosely, quite bad translation, but that's all it is. And it's very central to all the darshanas of philosophies in India. If you look at the Sankhyan underpinning, the Sankhyan philosophy, both Ayurveda and Yoga are completely based on the Sankhyan philosophy. So Sankhya talks about Prakriti and Purusha, and Prakriti is insentient and Purusha is the only sentient being, and their combination or their interaction, which is not sexual interaction, evolves into the entire universe. So Prakriti and Purusha then evolve into the Mahat, and then Mahat then evolves into the 3 kinds of Ahankaras: Sattvic, Rajasic, and Tamasic. So this Sattvic, Rajasic, and Tamasic is very different from the Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas that we talk about when we talk about the human Sattvic, Rajasic, and Tamasic mentality. So like you all very well know, Sanskrit, language has multiple connotations and meanings for the same word. So the ahankaras of sattva, rajas, and tamas are different from the sattva, rajas, and tamas that are alluded to when we talk about human behavior and personality. These ahankaras then again evolve into the 11 senses and the elements and substances. So the 5 intellectual senses, the 5 objective senses, the 5 subtle subtle elements, and the 5 gross substances. And then finally is the manas. And then this is carried forward by Ayurveda, where I'm sure many of you would have heard your mother, your grandmother talk about the different kinds of food that would affect you, at certain points of time. Like you can't eat too much of potato because it's going to give you a lot of, gas, vata. Your gas is going to increase too much. So if your gas increases too much, then what you do? You eat a lot of, maybe have some shunti kashaya, or things like that. So there was a way that people adapted to the environment, how they, interacted with the environment to eat certain foods or, drink certain things, which would help them stay healthy. And the prakriti that you're born with is your prakriti of health. That is your status of health. So if you try to change that, then, you fall sick again. So the Panchamahabhutas are Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Ap, and Prithvi, which is ether, air, fire, water, and earth. And this Panchamahabhutas, the ether and air combine with each other to form the Vata dosha. Fire and water combine with each other to form the Pitta dosha. And Ap and Prithvi combine with each other to form the Kapha dosha. And again, the doshas and the gunas are constantly interrelated. They're completely interrelated and they're constantly interacting with one another. Vata dosha is predominantly rajasic in nature with a little bit of sattva thrown in. Pitta dosha is predominantly sattvic in nature with a little bit of rajas and tamas thrown in. Kapha dosha is predominantly tamasic in nature with a little bit of sattva in it. So another thing is that Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, or Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, never act in, they are never alone. So there's always constantly an interaction between them. So sometimes Sattva is dominant, sometimes Rajas is, sometimes Sattva is low and Rajas is dominant in you. Sometimes Vata is dominant, but sometimes Kapha is dominant. It depends, and it varies every day. To give you an example, let's say that I'm predominantly a Kapha dominant person. So when I get up in the morning, the Kapha is dominant in me. The Kapha personality in my prakriti is dominant in me. So I'm a little slow, I get ready, and then I'm setting out to go to work. So when I'm on the way to work, because of the traffic, because of, I need to reach work on time and so on, then the Pitta in me becomes higher. Because I'm, anxious, I'm also very agitated. And then later on during the day, I finish my work, I come back home at night. And then when I'm ready to get into bed, again, the kapha is dominant in your tamasic, mentality. The prakriti is dominant in me because I need to go sleep. So on a daily basis, the sattva, rajas, and tamas and the vata, pitta, kapha constantly, move up and down. But having said that, predominantly how you behave would be your based on what dominance of gunas and doshas are there in you. So to come back to the evolution of, according to Sankhyan philosophy, the evolution of the tanmatras. So you have the pancha tanmatras first. These are more subtle than the panch mahabhutas. So these tanmatras evolve like the Shabda Tanmatra evolves into the Akasha Mahabhuta, which again evolves into the sense of hearing and the organ of hear in, beings that can hear, listen, things like that. The Sparsha Tanmatra evolves into the Vayu Mahabhuta, which evolves into the sense of touch, which again evolves into the organ of skin, and so on. And, when there's an imbalance, you can make out that, it's been studied by Ayurvedic physicians and Ayurvedic researchers themselves. When there's an imbalance in this, that's when there's a loss of hearing, there's a loss of vision, there's a loss of, taste, and so on and so forth. And it's very fascinating. The three doshas, like I mentioned, there are three doshas and there are three gunas. So if you look at the three doshas, I hope you can see my cursor. You have the Vata, Pitta, and the Kapha doshas. But having said that, you also know that there will be combinations. You have the Vata Kapha combination, where the Vata is dominant, while there's a little bit of there's Kapha also, but a little bit less dominance. Same way you have Vata Pitta, you have Pitta Kapha. And so you have 9 different combinations like this. And then the last is Vata, Pitta and Kapha in equal dominance. So you have 10 different combinations of people that you can classify people under. In the same way, you have Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. By the way, the colors of the Sattva, Rajas and Tamas have been delineated again in the classical texts. So Shvetashvatara Upanishad talks about the colors of the gunas for the first time. Sattva is white, Rajas is red, and Tamas is anything that is dark blue. I didn't put it dark blue over here, almost midnight blue, because it would not be very visible for people to see. So it is dark blue, dark gray, almost black kind of a thing. So there was a lot of explanation, delineation, right from the earlier Upanishads later and to the later texts also. So the same way you can see that Sattva, Rajas and Tamas also have 9 different combinations, and then the center one depicted like, that is of equal dominance. So Sattva, Rajas and Tamas in equal dominance. So you have 10 plus 10, and which is so these 10 doshas and the 10 gunas are constantly interacting with each other. And for each person, it's different. Even if you look at twins have been studied, twin studies have been conducted, where even though they have been conceived at the same time, but still there's a variation in the dosha-guna combination between the two people, between the two twins. So it depends, everything is dependent on the mother during the time of conception, what she's feeling, what she's eating, what dosha is dominant in her body, and so on. And at the time of conception itself, our dosha-guna combination is set, and it's set in cement. So why I say it's set in cement is that that is your prakriti, and that doesn't change. You can modify your prakriti over a period of time with a lot of willpower, with a lot of consciously trying to change yourself, consciously trying to modify yourself and so on. But I think that it's quite difficult to change your entire personality, even if you want to. Now, each of these tridoshas give certain characteristics to us. Like if you look at Vata, it's what the characteristics of Vata, of air, ether and air, is that it is unpredictable, it's erratic. The air will be here at one point of time and it runs away somewhere else. Nobody has been able to control it. It's erratic, it's fast, it's restless. And these are exactly the qualities that it gives to a person who is dominant in Vata who's dominant in Vata dosha. Same way for Pitta, it is people with Pitta dosha are short-tempered because Pitta is a fire, and it's also responsible for digestion in our body, for keeping our body warm and so on. So people who are dominant in Pitta are short-tempered, they are precise. Just a second. Yeah, so Pitta dominant people are short-tempered, they are precise, they're very sharp and decisive. They're also very aggressive and passionate about whatever they're doing. Kapha dominant people, if you see, are very stable, they're very predictable. Kapha here does not mean the phlegm that we have in our chest, when there's a chest congestion, it's a humor itself. So Kapha dominant people are stable, they're predictable, they're very slow, very ponderous in whatever they do, and they're very dedicated and thorough in all their activities. In the same way, for the Trigunas as well, Sattva dominant people, Sattva is the principle of intelligence, of light, of illumination, and so on. So Sattva dominant people are generally considered to be intelligent, they have a lot of fortitude, they're gentle, they're truthful, and they are always trying to see how they can improve certain things without having to compromise on, the negative qualities of maybe ruining the environment, maybe ruining relationships. It could be anything. Rajas is a very dominant, Rajas dominant people are high on energy. They're harsh, they're angry, they're excessively, attached to lots of activity. They have strong emotions and they're inclined towards violence and aggression. Tamas is a quality which brings a lot of, it obscures your mind. It puts a kind of veil over your thinking. It's mass, it's heavy, it obstructs your thinking. You're unable to think clearly when tamas is dominant. And then there's a lack of knowledge. There's a lot of confusion, lots of negative emotions of depression, and so on. And they generally tend to sleep. They get dejected very often, and so on. And coming back to the dosha and gunas, there are, like I mentioned earlier, I showed it to you. There are 7 or 10 types of doshas and the gunas combinations. And the Ayurvedic classical texts also talk about 16 classical personality types. And it's a taxonomy, and I'm going to show that to you. And I've also been able to identify 189 traits that run the entire gamut of human behavior. There are 100 sattvic traits, 60 rajasic, and 29 tamasic traits that I've been able to identify during the course of my work. The 7 types of like I mentioned, the 16 classical personality types. There are 7 types of sattvic personalities. There are 6 types of rajasic, and there are 3 types of tamasic personalities. And just because you're sattvic in nature doesn't mean you don't have the qualities of rajasic or tamasic natures in you. It is there, but it's also in a lesser dominance. That's what it only means. Like I mentioned again, the 189 traits, there are 100 sattvic, 60 rajasic, and 29 tamasic traits. Now, these are the 16 classical personality types. So the 7 sattvic personalities are Brahmasattva, Arshasattva, Indrasattva, Yamya, Varuna, Kaubera, and Gandharva Sattva. So during the course of my PhD, like I mentioned, I had to sort of translate these traditional Sanskrit names into English. And these are very poor translations. I accept it myself, but it's just a start. And then the 6 types of Rajasic personalities are Asura, Rakshasa, Paishacha, Sarpa, Preta, and Shakuna. The 3 Tamasic are Pashava, Matsya, and Vanaspatya. Now, if you take a look at it, from Vanaspatya Sattva to Brahma Sattva, it's a complete taxonomy. There's an evolution over there. So that's why I mentioned earlier also that it's a taxonomic kind of a delineation that has been given. So we are all operating at certain levels. I might be, Varuna Sattva, and I might also be Preta Sattva and Matsya Sattva. So my point in life is, how can I know who I am, at what level I'm operating, and how do I evolve to the next level? So from Varuna, I can't immediately go to Brahma Sattva. That's very difficult. So from Varuna, probably I can move to Yamya with conscious understanding of who I am, how I'm operating, what I need to do to, better myself constantly. Same way from Preta Sattva, I need to move to Sarpa Sattva. I need to then move to Rakshasa and then to Asura. So it's a constant, fight, not even a fight, a constant, consciously, kind of a thing that I need to do with myself for me to evolve from one level to the other. So Vanaspatya to Brihaspati. So Vanaspatya is your, somebody who's more like a vegetative state, who just is not ready to do anything, prefers to sit and get everything done by others, and so on. So from Vanaspati to Brihaspati, all the different variations have been covered. And this is present in all the classical Ayurvedic texts like Charaka, Sushruta, Bhagavata. They all talk about it. It's nothing new. And then we come to the application. So how are we going to apply? So we now know how are we, what is our dosha guna combinations and what level we are operating at. So now next thing is to know, what kind of job am I going to be good at? What kind of livelihood should I pursue? What kind of profession will suit me the most based on my physiological, psychological, and ethical, ethical combination of person who I am. So here I've given a very distinctly very different categorization. We won't find people like this, but this is just to give an example. So the person on the left is stable, is very methodical person. He or she is generous, stable, very calm, predictable, slow, and so on. Sorry. So the kind of jobs that they would do well at would be, desk jobs, perhaps as a CA, who doesn't need to really move around so much. Administrative roles, where they're very good at bookkeeping, where they're very good at making sure that everything runs according to plan, or even a factory manager who needs to make sure that everything is perfectly the same way as the other one. to, be able to send them out, ship them out. While the person on the right is a very creative, high energy person. They have very original thinking, they're restless, they cannot do the same work every day, impulsive, aggressive, unpredictable, and so on. So if you look at it closely, the person on the left is a Kapha dominant individual, the person on the right is a Vata dominant individual. So if I put the Vata dominant individual into the, into a desk job like a CA, administrative, or as a factory manager or something like that, I'm sure you can understand that there's going to be disaster. The Vata dominant individual would find it very difficult to sit at a desk and work morning to night in front of a laptop, and do a desk job. It would be very difficult for them. They might do it for a couple of months or maximum, 6 months, and then they're going to quit and run away saying that I can't do this. The same way, if you put a Kapha dominant individual into a sports kind of a role, or sales and marketing, or even a creative field, ask them to do something new every day, make a new painting every day, do something very creative every day, designing every day, they would find it very difficult because Kapha dominant people are not creative. They will only be able to do what you tell them to do very well, but they're not creative individuals. So that is again a major fallacy over there, and both of them are going to be very unhappy. So how do you identify this? How do you know who you are? So for that, you need to know at what level you're operating and what you can do. I'm also going to give a small, kind of an application that we did. We did this for a company that had approached us. So they wanted to hire the India head for their company. Obviously, I can't tell you the name of the company. It's an MNC company. They have more than 25,000 employees. This was about 4-5 years ago. They had more than 25,000 employees, across the world. And they were creating this new position to handle the design and manufacturing in India, as well as take on marketing at a large scale across India. So they wanted the person should be able to interact with the design team, the marketing department, or a couple of other departments as well, and had to be patient because there were a lot of old timers there. And the person also had to take the organization forward into the next 5 to 10 years. Towards their goals, and believe in gradual reforms, because they didn't want somebody who would wanted to change things overnight, because that would not sit well with the existing employees, and there would be a huge hue and cry about it, and there should be lots of things that they had to do. So they asked us to, they gave certain the people who need to take the test, and then we identified your competencies, we identified your, so we don't talk about doshas and gunas because, people don't understand that language, unfortunately, in India. So we talk about different kinds of things. And then they said, how are we going to understand at what level these people are operating? And then, we have 4 people over here. And I'm going to show you this, and I hope you can all see my screen. And if you can go through this, I'll show you all the 4 screens. And if you can tell me who you think should have been hired for that role. And the same person is continuing in the company to this day, very happy with it. And in fact, we also were able to help the company identify the next level in command for this person. They had their own people. They wanted us to identify who would work well with them. So from each of the departments, they selected 2 to 3 people. And then, we studied them, we understood their personality, and then we gave our suggestions as to who would gel well with the new India head that would come in. And that was a great success. So if you can take a look at this, I'm going to move to the next. If somebody can answer yes, I can move to the next screen where you can see the traits and competencies of the next person. So you will know, how you can see and tell me who you think was hired for this role. This is the person number 2. This is the person number 3. And this is person number 4. So who do you think was a good fit for the company to hire? Who this is what they needed?
Some of them have responded as person one,
Okay.
one person as four, and
Okay.
around 5 people, 4 people as three.
3, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Actually, it is person number 3. I'm glad that 4-5 people at least got it right. Yeah. So, so it's great for us to know that, who is who and things like that. So we are all able to understand based on their dosha guna combination, whom do we need to hire, whom do we not need to hire, and so on. So how can we know? So this is just something I thought I could, share with you. Examples of, leaders that we know who are sattvic, rajasic, or tamasic, or even combinations. So no political inclination over here. So I felt that Mahatma Gandhi, Sundar Pichai, and Indira Nui would be examples of sattvic leaders because of what they did. Again, Rajasic, Steve Jobs, Jeff Bezos, and Sheryl Sandberg, because they were more towards, companies and more very inclined towards that way. So is Sundar Pichai and Indira Nui, but still, I just felt like that. You're welcome to disagree with me. Tamasic is more Adolf Hitler, Joseph Stalin, Kim Jong-un. I felt they are more tamasic leaders. And combination I felt would be Winston Churchill, Barack Obama, and Angela Merkel. And though all of us are combinations, like I mentioned, there are certain characteristics of us which, push us to be more dominant towards one area of either sattvic, rajasic, or tamasic, rather than the others. And this is how I feel. So anybody has something to say, I'd be very happy. So how can we achieve balance as a leader? So I think the first step is to know ourselves. At what level are we operating? So when I say level, I'm talking about this one. So for us, I think as not only as a leader, not only in management, I think for each and every one of us, it's imperative that we know at what level we are operating for us to even understand what we need to do next. So I think this is a major thing that I really look to. And then, we all need to cultivate a sattvic mindset, because to reduce the kind of, fractures that are there in society, the kind of aggression that we see, I think cultivating a sattvic mindset is imperative. Harness your rajasic thoughts, bring that into, again, know yourself so that you can bring it into control, and then direct your energy towards more fruitful endeavors. And then tamasic leanings are there in all of us. So we all want to be lazy at one point of time or the other. And it's okay to be lazy once in a way, but not on a daily basis, not every day, not during working hours, not during things that we need to do, not when we have commitments. So, and avoiding chaos, avoiding confusion, avoiding trying to bring confusion into people and society. And then achieving personal balance as who am I as a person? How can I bring myself into balance with others, balance with the environment, balance mentally and physically. So it's an entire combination. I don't think we can say that I'm very balanced in the mind, but my body is, there's a lot of issues going on health-wise. So all of us, we don't follow the Cartesian dichotomy of the body and mind, which is there in the West. Now they're moving towards the Eastern philosophies where they say that, you can't divorce the body and the mind. So the body, the mind, and the spirit are all in unison. The more we accept it, the more we understand that our body has a lot to do with what happens in the mind. Your psychosomatic diseases of BP, diabetes, and so on are all examples of that. So I think we need to bring that into balance. And that's where we are. So just a little bit how I did it. I studied the Indic 5-element theory, the Panchamahabhutas, which involves the physical as well as the physiological as well as the psychological evaluation. And then combined it with modern psychometric methodology, which involves data collection, statistical analysis. And then I built Swayam, where we assess people on the physiological, psychological, and ethical aspects, the nature, attribute, and ethical orientation. And we've been able to prove that it works, demonstrated its application in various settings. So that's all I have to share with you all today. Any questions you have, I would love to take them up today. Just now.
Ma'am, thank you very much for an insightful session. But there are a few questions. Can we take the questions now, ma'am?
Sure.
The first question is, can we change the predominant traits by resorting to change management of tendencies as available in Sri Vidya, for example?
No, can you repeat the question?
Can we change the predominant traits by resorting to change management of tendencies as available in Sri Vidya?
Okay. Yeah. So like I mentioned earlier also, we can modify our behavior to a very large extent. But changing, let's say that I like, blue color, very, very raw example, that I like blue color. Can I change it so that I like only green color? No, that would be very difficult. So when you're looking at Sri Vidya also, Sri Vidya scripts also, they're talking about change management, they're talking about it, but it's always a gradual change. So it's going to take months, if not years, for you to have that impact, to get that to impact your mind, to constantly think about it, consciously, subconsciously, unconsciously, and then modify your behavior, modify your thinking to move from one area to another. I think it's a slow process. It can be done, but it will take a long time. And it's a gradual change, a gradual modification, not a change.
Can we go for the next question, ma'am?
Yeah. I hope that answered the person.
There is no reply as of now.
Okay.
Are psychological needs connected to leadership style? How are they connected with effective leadership?
Psychological needs are definitely connected to leadership style. It's connected to each and every aspect of our life. So that you can't say that, my psychological needs ends at home. It doesn't work in the workplace. So there are people have different needs, different motivators that move them to do certain things in their life. And not everybody is motivated by money. I've been saying that for a long time now. So what motivates me might not be motivating to you, because you have the way you've grown up. One is that your physiological, your psychological prakriti is very different from mine, and second is that the way you have grown up, the way you have been nurtured, the nature versus nurture principle, the discussion that is perennial. So the way you have been brought up, your life circumstances, everything will be very different. So where your psychological needs will always have an impact on who you are as a person, whether you're at home or at the workplace. There was a second part to the question.
Yes, ma'am. Do these things can be a situation based?
Yes, they're always situation based. So what you are today in a certain situation, like, for example, we are all the same person, is a mother, is a father, is a brother, is a sister, is a son, is a friend, but we interact with, like, I can't talk to a friend the way I talk to my father. I can't talk to my mother the way I talk to my friend. So each situation, we show different facets of our personality, and each situation, we bring certain aspects of our personality to the fore, depending on the need, depending on the interaction. So it's very, very situational based.
The next question is how to have Sattvic mindset.
Yes, that's what I just mentioned. How to have Sattvic mindset is so that we have to cultivate it. We have to know who we are. We have to know who we are and constantly try to evolve ourselves. That's the only way. Constantly, trying to be better than what. And we are all going to fail. It's part of life. We're going to fail every day, but that doesn't mean we give up. We pick up where we left off and then try a little bit more the next day. That's the only way forward. None of us are perfect.
Can I go to the next question, ma'am?
Yeah, please.
How does leadership based on Triguna makes them different from existing leadership models?
So the Triguna model of understanding people is very holistic. So it gives you an analysis of who you are as a person. It tells you, again, what is it that you want from life, what is it that you're good at, what is it that you can do, and how you can evolve yourself. I'm not sure if the Western models have this kind of an answer to them. So they look at you in a very situational context. They look at you at only the psychological aspect, and then they try to give you a lot of information. Some of them are good, some of them maybe not so good, but I don't think they are holistic, they're not comprehensive. So the Eastern and Western philosophies are very different, and the way we look at people, the way we approach leadership also is very different. Because the Bharatiya management, the Bharatiya way of looking at it is very holistic. So you're seeing how you can develop as a person. If you look at Bhagavad Gita, the way Shri Krishna tells Arjuna, you need to understand who you are. Make sure that you are an example to others. You cannot run away from the, from the Ranabhumi, because it's going to show that you're scared, because you're not scared. You're feeling empathy for them when you should not be feeling. So it's a more holistic way of looking at it. Again, very situational based. Holistic way of looking at people, at leadership, which is, I think, missing from the Western aspect.
The next question is, why do you compare Trigunas with Tridoshas? Is there a specific reason?
Yeah. So I'm not comparing the Tridoshas and the Trigunas. The Tridoshas are the physiological aspect of our being. The Trigunas are the psychological aspect of our personality, of our prakriti. And they both are constantly in interaction with each other. So there is no comparison here. They are complementary to each other. They are constantly interacting with each other. And your dosha and guna combination gives you your uniqueness, how you behave in certain situations, what kind of personality you have, what your likes and dislikes are. They give you your unique, personality. So there is no comparison over here. They're complementary to each other, and they're interacting with each other all the time.
The last two questions, ma'am.
Sure.
Is it good to overlap Rashi Nakshatra Gunas over these Trigunas?
Yeah, so I have no idea about astrology. Of course, being an Indian, I do have some knowledge about it, but I'm not an expert. There are some people who are trying to do it. Perhaps they will be able to do it with a little bit more work, but I've not tried it personally. I don't know.
Okay, ma'am. The next question is, does people with Sattvic Guna influence 21st century leadership behavior?
Definitely, people with Sattvic and Rajasic Gunas influence leadership, because you don't want a pure Sattvic person as your leader. You need a person who has qualities of both, equal qualities of both Sattva and Rajas in them to be a good leader. If you look at any of the leaders that I spoke about, they all have Rajasic Guna in them. All of us have, I mean, but they definitely do have, because without that, how will you be able to move things forward? Sattva by itself is very inert. It needs Rajas to push it, to make it do anything. Sorry. And wherever Rajas is there, Tamas is there. Rajas and Tamas go hand in hand. So, only Sattva will not be able to do anything. He'll just sit in one place and enjoy the surroundings, enjoy music, enjoy everything. But it needs that injection of Rajas in it to move it forward, to take things forward, to bring things to fruition. So just Sattvic will not work. You need a combination of Sattva and Rajas for anything to develop. Having said that, having a very dominant Rajasic and Tamasic leader would be a very tough thing. Having a Tamasic leader would be very, very disastrous for all of us.
One last question, ma'am.
Sure.
If Western psychology is not so applicable to us, then how can we say that Indian psychology is universally applicable?
Sure. So Western psychology is not applicable to us because, like I mentioned in the very beginning, it's got a very fractured way of looking at people. One theory will not give you a complete understanding of a person from birth to death, from across the entire lifespan. But the Eastern philosophy, the Eastern theory of psychology doesn't look at people in a fractured way. One is that it looks at people at the physiological, psychological, and ethical aspects, which the Western philosophies or the theories doesn't touch upon at all. Second is that since these are come to us from the Vedic knowledge system, they are universal truths. They are not limited to Indians. They're not limited to just one portion of the race, just one race, or just one country or one culture. If you look at yoga, if you look at Ayurveda, they have gone out and conquered the world. Because they are applicable to people across the world. So will you find somebody without Vata Pitta Kapha in US or in London or even in Japan? No, because all people are are composed of the Pancha Mahabhutas. You look at any of the different philosophies. You look at Islam, you look at Christianity, you look at Jainism, you look at Zoroastrianism. They all talk about us having been born from dust and going back to dust. We all believe in that. The entire world believes in that. The Indian philosophical tradition has moved that ahead, to my knowledge, has moved that ahead, where we talk about the evolution of the Panchamahabhutas into organ systems, and the entire psychological aspects as well. So I don't think that it's valid across the world because of its universal truths, and it's already proved its applicability, because anybody who performs yoga is able to have some improvement in their health and emotional well-being. There's no doubt about it. I think that's the way that we can show that both of them, the Indian philosophical thoughts, are valid to people across the world. That's one way of showing it.
Yes, ma'am, we are done with all the questions. Thank you so much, ma'am, for this interesting and wonderful session, which brought in a lot of interrelatedness between Tridosha and Trigunas, and also which brought about the characteristics of Tridosha, and trying to understand the traits and the type theories with a lot of examples and exercise that was there for the participants also to interact. So thank you so much for a wonderful session, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I enjoyed myself as well. Thank you.
Yeah, it was wonderful. It was wonderful. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.